Process. Here comes Rubalcaba. Rubalcaba dribbling to the center. Rubalcaba! Haley dribbles her way through the player. Now serves across towards the far post. Arriving Curran! Goal! Manaliliua at the edge of the 18. Touches it onto her right. Fires! What a save by Katie McLaughlin!
Hey, will anyone get there for DVC? It's Yasmin firing! Turns, Plancarte! What a save by Megan Elms!
Tied by the last defender. Valentine comes out. Noel dribbles the keeper. Levis! Goal! And that is a DVC victory! Welcome, faithful followers of the Green and White, to Vikings Soccer Rewind, your weekly trip in the Nostalgia-mobile as we continue to weather a long, sportsless fall season. This month, we turn our attention fully to the historic 2016 team. Having been built from an astonishing crop of freshmen, a few fortuitous kickbacks from four-year schools, some of the best members of the prior year's team, and, I'll say it, the find of the century, an assistant coach turned center forward turned Big 8 Offensive Player of the Year, the Vikings looked like world beaters from the very first game of the season. They went a perfect 6-0 in non-conference play, and when we last saw them, they just rebounded from their first loss of the season to Santa Rosa in match number 14 by grinding out a win over Cosumnes River. Now that result closed them back to within a point of Santa Rosa Junior College, whose draw that day to Folsom Lake was the first of 4 stalemates in a row for them. Folsom Lake, who the Vikings drew 0-0 in their next game, were also struggling a little bit in the absence of their injured playmaker Karina Torres. Well, DVC would take full advantage of their stumbles the following week in a pair of home games against Modesto and Sac City. Arellanes met with the head of Jess Jaime. Jessica might have thought about a shot for a moment. Now she is going to take one. Fires! Goal! Go! Younger one's Wonder Strike would stand up for the game winner over the Pirates on Tuesday, and on Friday the Vikings liquidated Sac City 4-0 to close out the month of October with a 3-point lead atop the standings. With just 3 matches left, all they would need to do to clinch their first Big 8 title in program history was record 2 wins and a draw, which was exactly what they'd done in the first round of matches against Delta, Sierra, and American River. Even better, this time around, they got to play 2 of those matches at home. But even as the math became crystal clear, it was a little hard to fathom what was at stake now.
I think I was still a little naive to where this team was going and the possibilities. I mean, we had a lot of draws, so in some ways it was still a little difficult to really gauge how good we were. And I just remember those Delta and Sierra being a couple of really good teams and really tight matches. In particular with those couple of games, it was, just quality soccer, and seeing these 2 teams on the pitch in those days battling it out for, a conference championship. I think, there was a lot of possibilities with who was going to be the conference champion. And so there was a lot on the line. And I just remember being really proud of how composed the team was.
Even so, as the ladies hosted Delta on November 1st, everything seemed set up for a coronation in roughly 1 week if DVC could just keep doing what they'd been doing. But as Zoe Raymer and Cam Chan will tell you, Delta games were never a simple proposition.
I always remember Delta just being super intense. And I just remember before that game, after playing them the first time, I was just really intimidated, which wasn't a good way to start.
I just specifically remember them because I feel like every game we played against them was just super physical and aggressive always with that team. They were spicy.
The first half of this spicy encounter was as tough as all the Delta games had been in recent memory. But unlike the 2 you've seen so far, and for that matter, all but 2 games I've ever seen between these teams in the last 6 years, it went to the break scoreless. However, we were getting good news from the other fields. Despite having an off year after winning the conference in 2014 and taking the race down to the final week in 2015, proud Modesto was doing the Vikings a solid as Jessica Haudegi had scored in the 15th minute to put them on top. And dreams began forming that the Vikings might be able to wrap this up today. And while the Green and White weren't able to find one of their already patented first 10 minutes of the half goals to seize control, they only had to wait 4 minutes after that. Perhaps she'll try to play on MorenA. No, Jess drifting all the way into the center circle. Pushes it forward for Vane. 2 defenders on Jess. There might be a mismatch elsewhere. And Vane's found it. It's Cam Chan streaking down the right side. Chan crossing towards the edge. Oh, it's off the crossbar! Here comes Vane firing! Goal! Though I goofed up identifying the diminutive Carla Ramos in the middle of that celebratory crowd, the substance of the moment was unchanged. With those results, DVC were briefly 6 points ahead of Santa Rosa, with 2 games left to play. Idle Folsom Lake would have still been in range, but the job seemed to be getting much, much easier. I did say briefly though, right? Well, moments after Carla put DVC into the lead, the report came through that the Bear Cubs had an equalizer at Modesto through Priscilla Villalobos. So the 6-point lead was now 5. And a quarter hour after that, both games would turn against DVC. Cruz dropping it back for a defender. Ball played into the 18. Burnham crashing in, and the ball still alive inside the 18. Leah Manaleleua tried to chest it down, cleared a little bit, dropped back. Now here comes a shot from distance. That ball curling! And Delta equalize. 3 minutes after that, Villalobos had a second goal to give Santa Rosa the lead in Modesto, and DVC's advantage in the table was trimmed to a single point. Now, while the Bear Cubs Pirates game petered out from there, DVC-Delta still had some life in it, as first Delta took a late crack at an upset to revive their own title ambitions. For Muñiz, here she comes forward, trying to put a ball forward for Manaleleua. Manaleleua at the edge of the 18, touches it onto her right, fires! What a save by Katie McLaughlin! May have just saved DVC's control of their own destiny with 2 minutes and 45 seconds to go. And moments later, on the final kick of the game, Vanessa Rubalcaba appeared to have the game winner. Only problem was... Ball forward, Vane working her way to the left side. Vane, in on goal, Vane! Clearance off the line with the head by a Delta defender. Following that exhausting day, the standings had tightened up considerably, as Santa Rosa closed back within a point. And though Folsom Lake was now 5 points back, they had one more match to play, as Santa Rosa and DVC would both take their bye in the final week of the season. Interestingly, the coaching staff was oddly equilibrated at this point. After all, they were allowed to draw one of these games, and there'd been a fear that perhaps a win over Delta could lead to the Vikings taking their foot off the gas pedal on the road in Rockland and falling to a banana peel defeat against a very game Sierra side. However, it wasn't the gas pedal that proved to be the issue on the road to Rockland. It was the tires.
Like, it was weird. Like, we're like, dude, I think something's wrong. And so we're trying to tell one of the other vans to look at our van to see if it's our tires pop. So we're trying to get their attention. They think we're making jokes. We're like, no, like look at our tire. And they're like, yeah, hi. And I'm like, no, look at our tire. And then, yeah, it was fun. We had to pull over. We were chilling on the freeway for a while. And so
I just remember driving, and all of a sudden the group chat started blowing up, like, our tire's gone, our tire's gone. And so basically it was like a frenzy, and I think I was in Coach's car, and I just have so many videos of her like running in slow motion, and it was like a little like Baywatch moment where she was just booking it down the highway, and it was really funny for people who probably weren't in that van. We all just laughed our ass off, but for people in the van, probably a little scary. But
not at all the blowout that we had in mind on our way up to Sierra. But after getting the team loaded onto the remaining vans and changing out the offending tire, Vikings equipment manager Annie Moore and I finished our trip to Rockland together on the spare. Joe Hickey coming to you not from Rockland, California, but from on the road with Annie Moore. We have had for the second time in this season a blowout of a tire on the way up to a road game. So this time Annie and I stayed behind and changed it with the help of California Highway Patrol Officer Will Lee. I want to make sure we give him big thanks.
Shout out to Will.
Annie, how was your experience trying to change this? Anything like doing one on your own car?
No, not at all. I don't know whoever designed it. They're nuts, because I don't know how you can get that tire out if you didn't have that guy's help. We'd have never done it.
They're nuts, you say? Is it possible they are lug nuts?
They're lug nuts. It's a pain in the neck, I'll tell you.
Bless that woman. You can always depend on Annie Moore to give your terrible joke exactly the laugh that it earned. As the team was forced to work a sped-up version of their typical game prep in one of the most important matches in DVC history, it provided yet another chance for them to come together as a squad.
I definitely remember constantly trying to, I felt like I was just trying to catch up to what was going on, and then, we figured it out. We were a great team, so we came together, definitely.
We were so bonded and just like, you know, I don't even know what words to say, but we had like our routine down, and there's so much team spirit. And those games, I just remember, like, I never really yelled a lot or talked a lot, but like I just remember those games. I was talking a lot, yelling a lot. I was up out of my seat.
And I think that's just kind of the nature of that team. They just really kind of rolled with things. They dealt with it. You know, I think as a coaching staff, we freaked out a lot more than they did. You know, we tried to we try to sometimes protect teams from that. And they were a very just kind of roll with it, you know, and like I said, go take care of business. Very focused on what they needed to do. Weren't really affected by other things. They just stayed in the moment and dealt with each challenge that was put towards them and handled it well, and it was impressive.
After a loud, spirited rendition of the national anthem sung at full voice by the starters at midfield and aimed at Coach Mullins, the Vikings got off to a typically quick start, albeit one that we don't quite have video for. Defensive zone. Jaime forward for Rubalcaba with a ton of space to run into. She can get herself turned around. She does. Goes off the right shoulder of Lehman. Now slides it in from Alera. Good first touch to settle. Forward for Lemus. Lemus fires! Goal! Go, 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 go! For the second time in 3 days, things seem to be headed in exactly the right direction. Hold on for this win. Beat an American Riverside that was 1-7 since we'd beaten them 3-0 on their own home field, and the title would be ours. The skies seemed as metaphorically clear as they were literally over Rockland at the halftime break. But just 4 minutes into the second half, out of nowhere, a bolt from the blue. DVC looking to try to see if they can get an early one here, but Sierra the ones with the opportunity right now. Jamie Goodwin forward to take the free kick. Here comes her ball in. That is drifting towards Katie Mack! And Goodwin has scored. Minute number 49, Jamie Goodwin has equalized. There was discussion in training yesterday that the one thing you didn't want to do was give away a dumb free kick in a promising position. She got that ball high. My jaw just dropped, and I'm like, I can't. Now I'm starting to worry that the fates are against us at that point.
Yeah, I mean, the kid, she couldn't have hit it any better. I mean, we knew that she was capable of that. Katie knew that. And she couldn't have hit it any better. There was nothing Katie could do. It's just, you know, it's one of those unfortunate things you experience. Usually not from a goalkeeper, but certainly you do experience that as a goalkeeper with free kicks from a distance, and it being a very difficult, you know, coming straight on. Sometimes it can be very difficult to, you know, gauge and get your footwork down right. But that she just hit it just ridiculously well.
I laughed when they scored it. I was just like, no way, that's funny. Like, it's so rare. It's like you said, you can't be mad. Just like, damn, all right.
I actually have a funny story. Fast forward in Oregon, at Oregon State, my friend and I were watching a video, and I was looking at it, and I was like, that free kick was really familiar. And my friend showed it to me again, and lo and behold, it was that free kick.
It's famous on IG. On some
Are you kidding me?
It's
like famous on IG.
Show, and it was famous, and I was like, that was my team.
And I remember the following season, we saw the video online, and we all talked about it, and it kind of takes the wind out of your sail a little bit there.
While reactions to the goal ranged from bemusement to admiration to absolute terror, one Viking knew only one way to react: hard work.
I think there was a couple that week that I remember talking to Coach, and I was like, well, we need to figure out how I'm going to save these kind of goals, because I was frustrated, right? Like trying to figure out if I was like just positioned in the wrong way, or if I was too high on my line, or if I needed to like step back or figure out like what I needed to do differently to make that kind of save. So I think I remember spending a lot of time with Coach at the top of the 18 and like learning how to like come back and learning how to use like my upper arm to make those kind of saves. But yeah, I just remember how frustrated I was.
Keep an eye out for the result of all that work in the playoff episodes the rest of this month. More immediately, DVC's reaction was to press in search of a game winner against a team determined not to allow it.
But, I mean, I always just remember that Sierra game, super physical, it just kept going back and forth, and we had the opportunities but just couldn't put them in.
Zoe, forward now for Sabrina, who tracked back a little bit, finds Megan Malera, and Sabrina looks to get off to the overlap, but she's going to go for the cross into the 18, just over the head of Kamani Smith. Here comes Rubalcaba, fires just barely off target. See who's going to take it. Here comes Megan. Megan firing, this ball sinking! Oh, just barely over. They're going to take this short. They do. Rolled into position for Malera. Cuts it around the arrival of Gobi. Malera, good service into the 18. Met with the head. Popped up in the air. Ramos comes in. Feeds it right back into the mixer. Ramos! And I Cam, and she does. Great stuff by Ale Gonzalez. Here comes the cross to the top of the 18 for Malera. She fires from distance, and that's going to be just barely wide of the target. 10th Viking. As time ticked down, DVC would have one last chance to rescue control of their own destiny. They look for the resurrection of their title hopes. On one in minute number 91. 92 now. The corner kick taken short. Malera dribbling to the byline. Megan, the ball in. Over the top of Lemus. Met by Rubalcaba. Still alive in the 18. Can Vana get turned for a shot? She goes to ground. Nothing given. The ball served back in. Still rattling. Looking for it is Lemus. Headed by Noel. And it's going to be cleared off the line. Out for another corner. Will he let us take that? Looks like it. As long as DVC hold it here, the ball rolled to Carla Ramos, back to Megan, left-footed cross into the 18, met, driven out, and Sierra have held on for the draw. We're going to send this straight back to the studio because I have nothing to say. DVC 1, Sierra 1. I'll be honest, I'm still a little bit embarrassed by how naked the emotion is in my call right there. But after 4 years, I still think it strikes the right chord. I was able to talk to Coach Mullins about the emotional roller coaster after all of that.
I think that was a moment where, we did know that an opportunity might have slipped out of our hands, and that's always difficult to take. And it was good to see that it meant that much to them, and I think that was something that maybe too I didn't appreciate as much with this group, is just how meaningful these days were to them, and to see them really impacted by that it's tough as a coach to see them that, but it also makes you proud because that's what you want. You want it to mean something to them, and it was pretty clear then that they were disappointed that they hadn't been able to kind of dictate the situation. So
it showed me how connected I felt to that club too, because I've been a sports fan for years. I get bummed out when my teams don't do what I want them to do, but this was a whole different level. We had the whole ride back from Rockland, which is like our longest road trip, and then I got in the car at DVC and drove an hour south to where my girlfriend, now wife, lived in Millbrae. And by the time I got down there, I talked about this with her for 2 hours. Just things just kept coming out, and I'd be silent for a while and bummed out, and then something else would come out. And I remember telling her what I realized by the end of it is that the reason it was hitting this way was because I wanted this so badly for you, Coach. Yeah. It hit me all of a sudden that's the thing that's killing. While the Vikings' title destiny was now out of their hands, what we didn't know until 2 days later, because some teams in this league don't know how to post their scores with anything resembling promptness, was how close Santa Rosa had come to giving that control right back to the green and white in utterly astonishing fashion. Sacramento City College, who to this day still haven't drawn or won a single conference match since 2012, held Santa Rosa at 0-0 for 81 minutes on the road in Sonoma County that Friday before conceding the game winner. My mind reels to think about how I would have made sense of that turn in the tale. At any rate, the title race picture was now crystal clear. Both DVC and Santa Rosa would finish their seasons with one more game against 8th place American River. The Vikings on Tuesday, the Bear Cubs on Friday. If DVC won and Santa Rosa didn't, that first ever title was theirs. Otherwise, Santa Rosa would repeat as champions. Folsom Lake, meanwhile, needed both teams to drop points to have a chance at an outright title in their Big 8 debut season. A DVC win in their finale would mean co-champions at best for the Falcons. That Tuesday, the Vikings took care of what little remained in their control. Intercepted without too much difficulty by Dej Dargan. Up the left wing now for Carla Ramos. First touch is not great. She does manage to get there and keep it in play, though. Forward for Ale Gonzalez, and Bang had gone away from her. Ale thinking about a shot. Nope, she's going to try to release Noel Lemus. Lemus in on goal. Lemus! Goal! Now at the midfield stripe for Zoe Raymer. Nice ball over the top, looking for Vanessa Rubalcaba. Vane working her way to the right side. Vane drops it back for Chan, who has room to put in a cross. Here's this ball in. Tries to knock it down to Gonzalez. No way! For Vane. Rubalcaba trying to bend it down. Goal! Golazo! As of right now, as they complete their schedule, they will be in first place in the Big Eight. The only question now is, will they stay there? Will they end up with company? The second question got its answer quickly, as Folsom Lake beat Sierra on Tuesday and Sacramento City on Thursday night to draw level with the Vikings at the end of conference play. So Donnie Robato's Falcons joined the green and white as the world's biggest ARC fans. It was all going to come down to this one last game Friday night in Sacramento. Now, you heard me mention that a certain team was not very good at posting their results on time, right? Well, I'll tell you this. I was not going to wait until Sunday to find out how this Friday match turned out. So, like any well-adjusted adult with his priorities completely in order, I decided to make the trip up to Sacramento to sit in a cold stadium on an evening in November to watch two teams that weren't DVC play a game that seemed most likely to end with Santa Rosa celebrating and me in tears. Have I mentioned this isn't actually my job at DVC? Anyhow, there I was, Twitter open on my phone to punch in the occasional update, and my Vikings soccer real-time recorder in my hand to rattle off a description of whatever I saw, just in case we got a miracle. Down on the field, of course, it was also an emotional night, but not just for the visiting champions in waiting, but also for American River. I spoke with one of their captains, Riley Affonso.
Usually our games, it was a very loud locker room. We were all just having fun, just lots of laughter and whatnot. That game was definitely a more serious tone for us. I think the biggest motivator I know for me personally, probably like overall, at least the sophomores, is that this is our last game as a Beaver, first game in the stadium. We don't want to disappoint. We want to end on a positive note, at least for ourselves and our team.
Now, there were two things that gave me some hope going into this match. First off, American River was a team that fed off emotion. Watch last week's episode, by the way, if you're not sure what I'm talking about. Well, they were going to get an additional lift that night, unlike anything I had seen in 3 seasons of road games up in the capital.
Header, first game in the stadium, last game of the season. It was a huge crowd. It was definitely crazy to see that. Our normal home crowd would just be our parents on their little lawn chairs watching us. I'll say it, we weren't the best of teams, so it wasn't like we were, a game hitter for the school, but it was just a great feeling to have everyone watch you, especially for your last game at the school.
Second, Santa Rosa's unquestioned star was the incredibly talented but obsessively competitive Amanda Galbraith. Among her 22 goals that season were all 3 Santa Rosa tallies against the Vikings, including a brace in what turned out to be DVC's only loss. However, we had seen her lose her cool before, most notably getting back-to-back yellow cards in the span of 60 seconds against Cosumnes River, in one of the Bear Cubs' many surprising missteps against lesser opposition. Vikings keeper Katie McLaughlin and center back Zoe Raymer spent a decent bit of time with the Bear Cubs star in DVC's 2 matchups with them.
I specifically remember being at Santa Rosa on that away game with that player. She was a good player. You can't knock that. With a dirty mouth and a dirty attitude. I just remember just her coming up and just being close by. Maybe it was like a corner kick or whatnot, and there's always some foul talk, or sometimes when you're next to that goalie and there's a corner kick, there's someone always cherry picking you and trying to sit on top of your feet, and you have to get your defender to help you out. But I feel like I just remember her just being so dirty. She would say mean things. She just wanted to get in your head, right? I think Coach raised us to be good professional players who will just Definitely. Yeah, for the most part, right? I feel like Zoe probably had quite a bit of time with her as well.
As a center back, just letting them talk and then showing them physically instead. That was the best.
I thought it was fun. I think that kind of challenge is fun. It's just like entertainment, right? You get to watch. They just get so heated, and you're just like, this is great. This is where being back in the goal, you're you kind of get to see everything and watch it all go down. And so her coming up and talking to me, I was like, I'm all for this. This is fun.
The combination was potentially perfect. A totally indispensable and exceedingly combustible player for the Bear Cubs, mixed with a few Beavers players that quite enjoyed mixing it up, shall we say. all of which led me to say this just 3 minutes into the encounter. ARC in possession right now. The ball is in possession of Juliana Munoz. She and Riley Affonso, certainly the type of players that could try to get under Galbraith's skin. I personally think the best bet for a good result here today is going to be one of those getting Galbraith to do something dumb and get a red card. Granner, forward now. Punch. Now, even if Coach Paul Arellanes wasn't accentuating that sort of provocation as a strategic move, Riley and her fellow captains certainly had it on their mind.
Juliana at the time, known her since I was 11. We played soccer since we were 11 together. So it was kind of just, we don't even need to say it. We're on the same wavelength. And I, like you said, I like to mix it up. I'm a talking player. I'm a mental game as well. And I think very shortly into the game, we could tell that Amanda, wasn't in a headspace where she could keep us all out. We definitely wanted to antagonize her. I actually have a picture of Juliana and I on side by side. Me on this side, Amanda in the middle, Juliana on this side going at her for a ball. So I think that's how me and Juliana were going about it, is that we don't want her to score a goal. She's a great player. She could hit a ball out from 30, 40 yards. She could dribble it in. Very dynamic, and we didn't want her to score a goal and embarrass us in front of all of these people. So I don't think it was a team strategy, more as kind of just unspoken between me and Juliana.
As I was taking a break from calling the action in the 24th minute, it all came to fruition. First, Galbraith commits a foul, born of clear frustration after taking a small shove from Haley Lovering. As River prepares to take the free kick, Riley tells us what happened next.
I know that a lot of the refs, especially when I first went to AR, you couldn't curse. You couldn't say anything in the earshot of a ref, and they were very strict on that, even if it was a sideline ref. So I'm pretty sure it was her mouth. She said something along the lines of, she dropped a 4-letter word, and the ref kind of had it and was over it. Pretty much, that's how it went. It was just her mouth.
My prophecy coming true before my eyes, I scrambled to get my recorder back up and running. And we have exactly everything we could have hoped for, ladies and gentlemen. Amanda Galbraith, talking back to the official, earned a yellow card just about 40 seconds ago, continued running her mouth, and has been sent off at the 24th minute. Hope springs eternal for the Vikes. Now, unbeknownst to me, there were a couple of parties and group chats that were hanging on my every tweet.
And I had a few of the girls over, and we were waiting, and we were following your tweets. But I know it was I think it was 10 of us. And
I don't know if it was Vane or Megan were on their phone, and we were looking at your tweets, and I'm not sure we were looking at the game live as well. I think we're just looking at your tweets.
Dre, Maria, Cam, a couple of people, and we were all just same thing, just gathered around our phones, just checking over and over again, pushing and just checking the group chat. And
Freshman Maria Winder made it clear to me that my tweets did have an audience when she replied to one after I'd gone dark for about 15 minutes to call the early part of the second half. Joe, we need updates. What's happening? Well, what was happening was time was standing still in Sacramento, and 45 minutes felt like an absolute eternity. ARC bottled up the shorthanded Bear Cubs, and they narrowly missed a couple of chances to take a lead that at the very least would have lowered my blood pressure a few points. And I certainly wasn't the only one suffering.
So it was definitely, like you said, the longest 45 minutes of my life. I remember the ref. How much minutes do we have left? How much longer do I have left? Because I'm exhausted.
Back down in the East Bay, the Vikings were starting to believe and hoping for a just reward to an amazing body of work.
So I remember we were just dude, they're gonna win, it doesn't matter. And then you tweeted that they were still struggling. We were so we're in the group chat, we're damn, we might really win it. And then you tweeted that she got double yellow cards and was sent off. Then we were we won. There's no way we didn't win.
We worked so hard, and we were just come on, please, dear God, just let us win, please.
Yeah.
And I remember having this feeling when I found out that Santa Rosa barely beat Sac City. I was come on, I was we have to win. Come on, we can't not win after all this hard work that we put ourselves through.
As the clock ticked down, ARC defended a stoppage time corner. Moments later, all that pressure from 2 weeks of tremendous ups and downs was released.
The Big 8 title is on the line. Annika Serini will put it in with the left boot from the right side. In swinging kick to come. The entire team is forward. Maloney, the only player back. Here's the ball in, met with a head and cleared. We await a whistle. Much more authoritative clearance. The ball drifting forward. Up comes Savannah Watson. She's going to keep it in play. Allie Maloney's out of the goal. Savannah Watson surging forward. The ball's where we want it to be. Trying to beat 3 defenders with it. Still Savannah Watson. Finally cleaned up by Elliott and Lemus. And that is the end! ARC have held Santa Rosa, and Diablo Valley College have won their first ever Big 8 title. I think I'm gonna cry. DVC are champions of the Big 8.
Now, of course, that's how I experienced the moment. But I was howling into a recorder, making an audio file no one would hear for another 2 days. Honestly, if I have one great regret about this whole thing, it's that it wasn't for another 2 weeks after this that we finally worked out for how to have me live stream from a soccer field, otherwise known, by the way, as where campus Wi-Fi signals go to die. Heck, if I'd realized there were parties, I would have just had one of them call me up and I would have narrated it into the phone. At any rate, the way Vikings Land learned the result was through a tweet that I typed out with my hands shaking, overcome by the chill in the air and a massive swell of emotion. It was simple, but hitting send was pure joy.
And then I just remember all of us screaming. We were just so excited because we had just one conference. So that's what I remember.
And we were all waiting, and then I remember when you sent out the tweet, we all screamed, and it was like a celebration. And then we immediately called Coach, and she's going to kill me for times, but she was crying.
Yes.
Or she had cried. She sounded like she was crying.
Coach wasn't the only one.
And yeah, when we finally figured it out, it was kind of cool to be surrounded by other teammates because we were just going crazy and just celebrating.
I have a pretty vivid memory for a couple reasons. Obviously, it was our first Big 8 championship, but I also was in Vancouver, Canada, which I never traveled during season. So I remember you and I think we're maybe texting Joe, but yeah, I was in a hotel room in Vancouver, and then you tweeted or texted, I can't remember what it was, that the final had happened, and then phone calls started. A couple of the players had called, and I remember a bunch of phone calls coming in, and just being full of joy. Again, I think that was the moment that I think we were affirmed for ourselves, not necessarily to anybody else, but for ourselves, that we were a damn good team.
The Vikings were a team that hung its hat on consistency that year, losing just once in their first 25 matches and navigating a halcyon season for the Big 8 to a 9-1-6 conference record. Remember, this was a league that supplied nearly half of the NorCal playoff field, including the top 4 seeds. Crucially, while Santa Rosa had these weird little unexpected draws or losses all over the place, particularly to the 2 river teams who they went 1-1-2 against, DVC won 8 of their 10 matches against the bottom 5 without a loss, and they split their season series with the rest of the top 4 to keep them all at arm's length. Nothing fazed them, and no hit was too much to bounce back from.
I don't know that without that championship, kind of that confidence boost, would we have been so resilient? I mean, as I had mentioned, we were very focused. We were very in the moment even up to that point, but they were so resilient all through playoffs. I mean, getting through Northern California to get to the Final Four was incredibly difficult. And then, the semifinal match, to play in that moment and to play as well as we did, I think a lot of that really stems from that conference championship and the confidence that we gained from that experience.
Even if they had to sweat out the ending, awaiting Twitter updates from 90 minutes up the road, it was still as impressive a 16-match run as DVC soccer had ever put together. And of course, we're just getting started. With the Big 8 and the number 1 seed in their back pocket, it was time for the Vikings to aim their compass squarely at Ventura, the location of the 2016 Final Four, as DVC looked to turn a few more unprecedented things into reality. The first step in that journey? A round 1 matchup with their neighbors to the north, Solano College. And that's what we'll have for you next Friday as we start that playoff journey right alongside the green and white. Until then, this is Joe Hickey wishing you nostalgic, triumphant dreams of green. See you next time.